All right, today we're tackling a question that's just mind-blowing when you really think about it. How does that 3-pound universe inside your skull actually make sense of the entire world around you? I mean, really, just stop and think about it for a second. The moment you look at something, you just know what it is. A person's face, a building, a car, boom, it's instant. It's totally effortless. But how? How in the world does your brain do that so fast? Well, the answer, as it turns out, isn't just a jumble of random wiring. Nope, it's more like a hidden, incredibly organized map of concepts deep inside your head. And today, we're going to trace the outlines of that map, starting with the very first landmark scientists ever discovered. So at first, researchers found these highly specialized zones in the brain. You can think of them as little hotspots, small areas that seem to have one and only one very specific job. Kind of like the major cities on our brand new brain map. Okay, our first stop is the fusiform face area, or the FFA for short. It's this little patch of brain tissue tucked away in the temporal lobe, and it lights up like a Christmas tree whenever you look at a face. Seriously, it's like our brain's dedicated face expert. And the evidence for this? Oh, it's rock solid. Brain scanners show the FFA just fires up like crazy for faces, but show it a picture of a house? Barely a peep. And here's the kicker. If that specific area gets damaged, people can develop something called prosopagnosia. You might know it as face blindness. They literally lose the ability to recognize faces, even their own family. It really is a dedicated face zone. So, what about that house we just mentioned? Where does that get processed? Well, that brings us to our next landmark, the parahippocampal place area, or PPA. And just like the name says, this region gets super excited when you look at places. Doesn't matter if it's a huge, sprawling landscape or just the inside of your bedroom. Yeah, the PPA's whole job is to understand spatial layout. It doesn't really care if a room is full of furniture or totally empty. As long as it's a place, the PPA is interested. And just like the face area, it's incredibly specific. It fires for places, not for faces or random objects. All right, our last specialist zone for this section is the extrastriate body area, the EBA. And yeah, you can probably guess what this one does. It's specifically tuned to recognize bodies and body parts. A hand, an arm, a whole torso. You name it, that's the EBA's domain. And this just perfectly illustrates the brain's incredible division of labor, right? The EBA goes off for bodies, but, and this is the important part, it does not activate for faces. That's the FFA's job. So it seems like we have these separate, highly specialized little toolkits for processing our world. But is that really the whole story? And this is where our story takes a really fascinating turn. See, the idea of just a few specialist zones was cool, but it felt incomplete. To get the bigger picture, researchers came up with this truly groundbreaking study that went way beyond just showing people static pictures. They used movies. So here's the setup. They had people watch hours and hours of movie clips while lying inside a brain scanner. Meanwhile, the science team was painstakingly cataloging every single thing that appeared on screen. We're talking over 1,700 different objects and actions. Then, using some seriously powerful computer analysis, they matched the brain activity of these tiny little brain cubes called voxels to what the person was seeing at that exact moment. And what they found was just breathtakingly simple and elegant. They discovered a fundamental organizing principle of our brain. Objects and actions that are similar to each other are located near each other in the brain. It's not just a few random hotspots, it's a smooth, continuous, meaningful map. You guys, this changes everything. It means our brain is organized by meaning or semantically. Animals are grouped near other animals. Humans are near other humans. Tools are next to other tools. Suddenly, the map wasn't just a few cities, it was a vast, detailed, interconnected continent that nobody had ever seen before. So let's zoom in on some of the amazing details from this new map. Remember the fusiform face area? Well, it's still there, but now we see it's part of a much larger human territory, with a spot right next to it just for reading facial expressions. The map also showed huge regions for animals and for places. And maybe the coolest part? When someone on screen was talking, the parts of the brain that lit up were, you guessed it, the classic language centers we already knew about, Broca's and Wernicke's areas. It all fits. Okay, so this huge, expansive map is incredible, right? But it also creates a really fascinating puzzle. How do we square these two different views of the brain we've just looked at? On one side, we have a few super specialized zones. On the other, we have this giant continuous map. And this brings us to what we could call the great brain paradox. So, on the one hand, you've got this localized view, the brain as a set of specific tools, where the FFA has one single job, faces. But on the other hand, you have this new distributed view, the brain as a detailed map, where functions are spread out across huge interconnected regions. So, which one is it, a set of tools or a map? Well, the amazing answer seems to be it's both. The brain seems to use these highly specialized modules, but it organizes them within a much, much larger meaning-based map. And that, right there, is the beautiful, exciting frontier of neuroscience. We've gone from just identifying a few capital cities to suddenly revealing this vast, sprawling continent of meaning that exists inside every one of our heads. And it just leaves you with this incredible, tantalizing question. If this is the map that we've charted so far, what other amazing territories are still out there, just waiting for us to discover?